3 to 5 p.m. for Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. That's 2 hours of great gospel music every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m., all brought to you by the Ozona Pig Restaurant in Ozona. Yes, that's every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. Tune in on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Calling all radio enthusiasts with storm claims and legal questions. Join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. on WTAN FM 106.1 and AM 1340 for Legal Candy with attorney Candace Colucci. She's your guide to hurricane-related issues, property insurance law, and more sizzling legal topics. Get ready for a lively legal experience. Make your Saturday sweet with Legal Candy on WTAN FM 106.1 and AM 1340.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
Caregivers around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. On the show where you can find help and hope. And with us on the boards today, we have Ed. How you doing, Ed?
Doing all right.
You doing okay?
Yeah, had a rough week.
Why?
Oh, man, I came down with that cold crud that was going around probably last Wednesday or Thursday. And then Saturday and Sunday was in bed all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then, as you can tell, my voice is starting to come back. It was really bad.
All right, well, I'm not hugging you today.
Coughing like crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, for me, I just got back from Mexico. So we have two guests on the show today. We have Dr. Terry Collier. Thank you so much for being here today.
Always a privilege.
I'm so excited to have you. And Michael Poston, I'm so glad you're here too.
Pleasure to be here as well. Thank you.
So the first thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Marcy in Clearwater, we have Maribel in Largo, and we have Joy in St. Pete. And like I say, there's always plenty of room around the Connecting Caregivers table for new listeners, whether you listen when we're live on AM, FM, or on YouTube, or on Facebook, or on my website, or wherever you can find us. We're here just to bring you help and hope. I know your caregiving experience is not easy, but I'll tell you, it can be very joyful. I promise you that. And how it's going to be that is when you find out that there are resources to help you, when you know that you're not the only one that's going through this. You know, I did a live support group this morning at Arden Courts in Seminole, and there were two new ladies in there. And you could see after like about 15 minutes, their shoulders just fell down. They're like, okay, I'm not alone, okay. Or when somebody says, my loved one is starting to act out this way. And, my husband went through that phase too. Okay. Because you think it's only you because you don't know.
It's all about adjustment.
Yeah. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. There's no book out there for that.
No. I mean, if you can listen to the show or get to a support group, please, that's my most important thing is to get to a support group. And I'm not the only girl on the block that does support groups. There are support groups through churches. There are support groups through other facilitators that I know. There are live. There are Zoom because we're talking about it. Thank you.
You're still the professor to all these groups, though, Linda.
I try to, because it's everywhere. I was just saying to somebody the other day, if there are 200 residents in my townhomes where I live, I bet you 70% have cognitive impairment or worse in one of the people or whatever. But if we're not talking about this, I went into my mailroom a couple of months ago. Two ladies are in there. I don't know them. And the one lady opens up her mailbox and it's so full, all the mail falls on the floor. And she starts crying. And I'm like, it's only mail, I'm thinking. And I'm helping her pick up the mail. And she goes, oh, my husband's dementia is so bad. I can't even pick up the mail anymore. And the other lady goes, my husband has dementia too. I said, hey, you girls need to be friends and you need to be friends with me. And now sometimes I see them walking around the complex together. You know, the one lady came to a support group. The other one came to one of my speaking engagements. So it's not, sometimes I think people think that Alzheimer's and dementia is like shameful. Like, oh, you don't want to tell nobody that we got that. You know, if we have cancer, we'll tell them.
That's what you do best, Linda. You are the professor of the area.
But before we talk more about caregiving, I have to give a shout out to Ride with Ron. So Ron picked me up at the airport yesterday. I met him through Facebook. What a nice guy, prompt, on time. I sent him a message through Facebook when I was in Mexico like 4 days ago. Can you pick me up at this time? He's like, yeah, good to go. It was a good price. Clean car, nice conversation. So thank you, Ron. And if anybody wants to contact him, they can contact his email, beachrideswithron@gmail. Because, you know, sometimes I need a little ride. I mean, usually I have somebody to picks me up, one of my grandkids or whatever, but, you know, they work and stuff. And I can't drive at night anymore because I need cataract surgery, but they tell me my cataracts are not ripe enough. They're not ripe enough. So I go, what do you mean? Well, maybe next year they'll be ripe. I said, so what am I supposed to do? I can't see at night. They go get the yellow glasses, you know, the yellow thing. I said, well, it's not just the glare. I can't see where to turn. I go, what am I supposed to do? He goes, don't drive at night till they approve the surgery. That was a year ago.
Wow.
So they're April 26th. I'm hoping I'm right. I don't know if I put a screwdriver in my eyeball when I go in there or whatever. You know what? If they're going to do it next year, do it now, right? The prices are going to be less this year. You know, it's just.
Well, it's making it not convenient, you know, for you. And
yeah.
It's almost taken a year away from your driving at night.
Yeah, it's good. Well, a couple of weeks ago, my daughter called me one morning. Oh, I got to go somewhere early. Can you drive Nicholas to school? I go, yeah, sure. And then I realized it's dark out when he goes to school. Well, I could make it a Brian Derry to Starkey, but really. But anyway. So I am so glad that you're here, Terry, today. I love Crisis Connect. I love everything that you do. Oh, I see you have Karen Truman's book here.
Yes.
I love Karen Truman, too. You know, it's kind of nice in this Tampa Bay area that you have professionals that want to make a difference and that work well together. Because when you do that, it just like enriches the entire community.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard from Karen. It was before the pandemic.
Wow.
And the pandemic changed a lot of what you do and what we all do when it comes to caretaking.
Well, I will tell you, as far as like my conferences, COVID was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
COVID was a gift. So when COVID came, oh my God, how am I going to do my support groups? I need to touch my people. I need to hug I need to see their faces. There was no choice. Well, then all of a sudden, I got caregivers in my support groups from all over the United States and Canada that never had a support group near them. You know, never had the luxury of being the opportunity. Maybe the nearest support group was an hour and a half away. Oh, yeah, you're taking care of somebody. You're going to drive there an hour and a half. And so there were gifts of COVID.
Connections certainly took on a new dimension, especially with the elderly.
So explain to our listeners what Connections is.
What, Crisis Connect?
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to Michael before the program here that I've been a crisis counselor for about 35 years now. And when it comes to seniors, which is just one element of crisis, you know, we're reminded that all of us are just one step away or one event away. It could be a natural disaster like the 2 hurricanes we just had, or it could be a man-made event, you know, like a stroke or
a fall.
Fall, yeah, number one.
A fall.
But we're just one event away from what I call a crisis is destabilization. Destabilization is where your whole world is no longer together. And it can happen in just a moment.
Yep.
And when that change happens or that event happens, it triggers so many things in the brain, the emotions, the heart, fear, doubt, loneliness, isolation. It's it's so confusing. And so as a crisis counselor and Crisis Connect, so many times, I don't get called till the crisis has already happened.
Right.
Which is why I love what you do, because you are out there teaching and helping people from falling into a secondary crisis, which is the caregiver. The caregivers are so vulnerable. And so the connection is just trying to connect people with the right resources so that when they're in a crisis situation, whether it's financial, physical, emotional, whatever it is, that they are connected with the right resources to get them through.
Because believe me, everyone's going to go through a crisis at some time.
Everyone.
Some might be a little bit more difficult than others. I can remember years ago, I got custody of my grandchildren overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what Xbox is or Common Core Math or anything. And after a while, I started a support group. It was at Seminole Elementary, it was called PASTA, Parenting a Second Time Around, because you don't know.
Right.
And you're scared and you're maybe a little ashamed or embarrassed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that affects the decision-making process, right? I mean, no one makes a great decision in a moment of crisis.
No.
And that's the hard part, is, like you said, being at forefront and coming in and getting a plan, A, B, C, or D, because we know that when that crisis happens, decisions have to be made quickly, and we don't always make those right decisions.
In the ideal world, Michael, in your industry, would be to have a plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, there's more people who don't have a plan than do.
Nope, 100%.
With everything.
That's
how many people don't even have their documents in order?
80%.
I'll see you tomorrow, Linda.
You know what? None of us are getting out alive. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah.
And what? All right. So I think in your regular life, you got to try to be as prepared and flexible and open, because you're going to get a crisis at one time. And then don't think that you have to go through that by yourself. Because that's when it really gets bad. That's when you start getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you start getting isolated. And that doesn't help anybody, because people want to help you. People want to reach out with you, because the people that are reaching out with you, they did a crisis already.
If you're fortunate enough to find those networks and people who are able to see in another person, just like you with the lady not being able to get her mail. I mean, if you weren't there, if you didn't see that, she would have probably continued in her crisis, gone back to her place, and just continued to live in her.
That's why we need to talk to our neighbors.
Yeah.
We need to talk to our church. We need to talk to our Kiwanis, Rotary, whatever it is. There was, on the back of my business card, it says, the person I'm with has Alzheimer's and dementia, may not clearly understand what you're saying. Please be patient. So one time I gave a bunch out at a support group. And a couple of days later, the one lady calls me and she goes, "Can I have 14 more cards?" So I go, "Sure." So I leave them in an envelope by my house, and she comes and gets them. And she comes to the next support group and she goes, "Those cards saved my life." I'm like, "Wow." So she lives in a mobile home community. Her husband has dementia. He's starting to wander in people's yards. When he walks the dog, he's not always cleaning up the poo. So everybody's looking at him like, ew. So she went and she gave one card to every neighbor. And they said, "He can come in our yard. We'll clean up the poo. Maybe he would like some lemonade." So now you have a little village there.
Makes all the difference in the world. And that's one of the things we lost during the COVID pandemic is that community.
Yeah.
I mean, all we heard is, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't congregate.
Some people are still feeling that way.
Oh,
Not a lot, but some still are.
I know.
They're afraid.
I still see it. And I happen to run a counseling center in a large church. Annona United Methodist Church.
That's right.
A great church.
Yeah.
And when the pandemic hit, the first thing that I realized is that we had 750 members over the age of 75. That's a large population. Now, over 75, they're not going to go on social media. You know, there were months that we did worship online because we couldn't congregate.
Right.
Our doors were shut, and fear and everything. So we put together a group of volunteers. There were about 40, and we got the phone numbers and names from the database, and we made 750 phone calls every week for over 18 months.
Wow.
20-some thousand calls. Now, telephone call, they still pick their phone up and talk, and we had conversations.
And they want somebody to talk to.
And several of them said, hey, I'm fine. You don't need to call me every week. And say, good. So, but we're going to check in on you.
Yeah.
And it made all the difference in the world. And those relationships are still going today.
That somebody cares about me, that somebody thought about me.
Yeah.
Caregivers can become very isolated. And I say, look around to your neighbors. And if you do know that they're having a difficult situation, just do something for them. Just mow their lawn. Just get a BOGO, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, Linda, the toughest stories for me during that time was the spouses who were trying to care for their spouses, caregivers, and they had no resources, really to reach out to, no groups to be able to go to. And
the ones that couldn't see their loved ones in a community.
Oh my God.
That had to see them through a window.
I had so many of those cases. I had a very good friend of mine whose wife died, and
they're on a cell phone.
He was blind since birth, and didn't get to say goodbye to his wife. It's tragic.
Yeah.
Tragic.
Yeah. But I think we've learned a lot from that. I think we've learned a way we can communicate better. Our laws have been changed. Now there's the essential caregiver. You can never be locked out again. You're going to at least get your one person.
Right.
And that one person makes all the difference. It's just that. And you know what happened with the communities at that time? That one person that used to came in helped them too. Because I'm helping my loved one, but I'm helping the staff because I got another set of hands here. So made a lot of changes after that.
Yeah.
So how does somebody get in touch with you? And I'm sure some people are thinking, well, what kind of crisis am I having that I could get help with?
Well, mycrisisconnect.org is the easiest way to get onto our website. I'm excited that we're still a startup. I've just gone public with this about 3 years ago, but I've been doing this work for a long time. So the person who's really stepped up to the plate and sees the vision with me is a fellow by the name of David Yates. David Yates was the president, CEO of Clearwater Marine Aquarium for years. He's a movie producer. He produced the Dolphin Tale 1, Dolphin Tale 2, and Winter the Dolphin. And see, people don't realize how many hundreds of thousands of people Winter helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of Winter's disability and the resilience that people had. The stories are just incredible about depression and
the joy people saw.
Yes.
And the joy they could feel seeing what Winter did.
Veterans that were ready to take their lives. Some of them are quoted in the journal saying, if this dolphin can live through this, I can do it, So, but David has seen that this is a big issue. It hits all segments. There's no respecter of persons, age, wealth, education. Crisis hits everybody, and it goes through the generational lines, which is another thing I like about what you do, Linda, because it teaches the grandchildren and the children and the parents and the grandparents and the great-grandparents to rebuild that generational connection that we've lost.
You know what? I started about 3 months ago. I started doing Sunday dinner again. I'm done. My kids are here, right? My grandchildren, all right, I know you got soccer. I know you got this. Just come over on Sunday. I just make crock pot stuff or whatever. Whoever comes. And it can be 5 or it can be 12. But I need that. They need that. They need to see me.
Well, that's interesting because that was my therapy. I had to unplug my brain because I was going 24/7. I just couldn't shut it off. And that's what crisis does. and the pandemic. But during that time, I started taking Thursdays off and started cooking. And I would pick a menu from somewhere around the world. I'd do Mediterranean, I'd do Jamaican, I've even done Haitian and Italian, Spanish. But every Thursday evening, and I've got 5 brothers and sisters, and my mother was alive at the time.
Oh, nice.
But every Thursday, I would go and buy the ingredients. I would write the menu out, and I would put it together. And I always did something from the water and something from the land. And we're still doing that. We call it Thankful Thursday.
Oh, I love it.
And last night we had Chilean sea bass.
And isn't that just a fabulous thing?
But cooking is therapy.
Yeah.
And eating is just fun.
And gathering.
Yes, that's the whole point.
You know, I have once a year I rent out my clubhouse, and I have what's called a gratitude dinner. And everybody just brings a dish to share, and everyone just stands up and shares gratitude. The place like vibrates. Woo! You know, and we all chip in $10 towards some charity. You know, like, how cool is that?
You just reminded me, after the 2 hurricanes we just had, Helene and Milton, 30 days after the hurricane, what hit? Thanksgiving. Yeah. And over on the beaches, there were tens of thousands of people that were displaced, no home, no table to have Thanksgiving.
Right.
So we got together and did an event through Crisis Connect called Beach Aid. And the city of Madeira got behind us. Caddies lost 7 restaurants during that time. Krabby Bill's lost restaurants, and
all those people lost their jobs.
But the owners of those companies came together with us, and the owner of Caddies, the owner of Krabby Bill's, and we fed over 2,000 people. We took a day we just had 3 bands. They were out on the city steps of Madeira.
You brought joy and gratitude.
Let's just 30 days. Let's take a break. No politics. And let's just eat and enjoy the music and be together. It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So once again, where can our listeners find you?
mycrisisconnect.org.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. But right now we need to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So we'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Are you getting older, or are you taking care of somebody who is? You know, getting older creates new problems you probably never imagined. One of the big ones is, how do you pay for care? Care in your home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. Did you know that nursing home care in our community can cost up to $12,000 per month? For the last 33 years, our offices help families access benefits, including Medicaid, VA, and PACE, to help pay for the cost of long-term care. Regardless of what your assets are or what your income is, you can qualify for these benefits. Proper planning and guidance are absolutely necessary to avoid being wiped out. Let us help. If you are in care or heading in that direction, we can help solve that problem. Take action now to obtain benefits to pay for the cost of care. Here are the 4 things that you need to do. 1, get a new power of attorney. Your old one probably isn't good enough. Get a healthcare surrogate and a living will. 3, get an estate plan that will not disqualify you from benefits. And 4, get a plan to qualify for Medicaid, PACE, or VA benefits to pay for the long-term care costs. Call us today for a free consultation, 727-539-0181, or go to flmedicaid.com and download our free book on Medicaid and planning for long-term care. I'm Sean Scott. I'm here to help.
Guaranteed to make you laugh through your tears, Linda Burhan's book, Good Night and God Bless, is filled with humor and heartfelt inspiration to aid anyone facing the challenge of caring for a loved one at the end of life. Her story offers hope for human strength and understanding of weaknesses during a difficult time. Life doesn't normally prepare us to become a loved one's caregiver. When it happens, it's usually sudden. A diagnosis of an illness, age-related frailty, dementia, and life suddenly is anything but normal. And because we don't even know what we don't know, where do we turn to for help or guidance? In Connecting Caregivers, Answers to the Questions You Didn't Know You Needed to Ask, Linda offers information, education, and inspiration from her own experience and from experts whose advice, practical tools, and personal stories will empower and guide you. Make sure to add these inspiring books to your collection today. Available on Amazon.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back. So before we start to talk to Michael, I just want to let you know about an event that's coming up this Thursday where you can see yours truly. It's a lunch and learn, and it's from burnout to balance, rediscovering joy in the caregiver journey. And like I say, the people that show up for these are the people I love the most because they're caregivers that want to learn something new, because they're caregivers that want to see a different way. And if you don't show up, you can't meet new people, you can't learn new things, and you can't be entertained by me. So you can RSVP. It's Thursday, March 20th from 11:30 to 1:30 with lunch at Arden Courts in Largo, and RSVP 727-559-8411. So Michael, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here today. So we're going to talk a little bit about real estate. I come across a lot of caregivers that come to the point where maybe we need to downsize. Maybe we need to sell this big house and move into a community, or maybe one becomes ill or something like that happens. So you're a senior real estate specialist.
Correct.
So explain to our listeners what that is.
Well, it's a little bit, it's different than a normal real estate agent where we actually sit down with the family and kind of dig in deeper and really ask the tough questions that no one asks. We always start the conversation, making sure that we're being proactive. So do they have the correct documents in place? What was something that happened during the process if mom or dad or someone passed away? So we're really just kind of making sure that they understand the process, that they're ready for it.
It's a big deal.
Well, so right now, homes or senior homes are basically the retirement fund. That's their nest egg.
Exactly.
Right? Is whatever home that they're in, that is their nest egg. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that they're using it correctly. We're not coming in just to sell the home. That may not be the smart move, or downsizing may not be the smart move, right? So we really want to make sure we're using that asset as best as we can to help them in their current and future needs. And so it really, again, sits down, asking those tough questions, going through the legalities, how to move money correctly without maybe disqualifying from benefits or Medicare or Medicaid, how to keep it out of probate, how to keep the state from coming after the home or funds.
So you're educating, you're not just there to come in and sell the house.
Yeah.
I'm going to educate you and see what you need. And like I said, we're surrounded by a great community of professionals that want to help.
Right. The team behind me, whether it's individuals from Better Living for Seniors or
an elder care attorney or whatever,
everything. And we really go into detail to make sure that, again, maybe they don't have to sell.
Maybe it's just not right yet.
Right. I mean, I've had instances where they've decided to move into an assisted or a memory care, and instead of selling the home, we rented it.
Oh,
wow. So now they're getting income on a monthly basis. They still have that nest egg. Now, it doesn't work for everyone,
right?
Yet, we want to give options. It's not just about coming in and selling the property. I think most agents have that mentality. It's a paycheck.
Yeah.
I want forever clients, and I want my clients to make sure that they're doing the right thing, that they're comfortable in what they're doing. And
I don't want somebody to take care of my mom or dad or me when I'm old.
No.
But really, I mean, selling your home is a big deal.
Well, it's huge. It's one of the
It's a
biggest
big-
financial decisions of your lifetime.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a big deal, but it's not just financially, emotionally.
Yeah.
You can be leaving a place that you lived in for, 30, 40. My mom, when I tried to get her to move from Long Island to here, I lived in this house for 48 years. I'm not going anywhere. But what happened? She needed a $15,000 chimney repair, and she had no money. It was all in the house.
Yeah.
And she's like, I surrender. Find me somewhere to live.
Well, and then they have 40 years of memories and items and
items.
and.
Well, all right. So listen,
Yeah.
you guys. So when my nieces, nephews, kids, whatever, come over the house, they go, Aunt Linda, I like that picture on the wall. I've always liked that picture. I take it off and I give it to them. I wanted them to hang it in their house and invite me over for dinner and say, oh, how nice is that? Because later on, nobody wants my stuff. Believe me, nobody wants your stuff. I'll tell you, if I have a male in my support group and the wife dies first, this is the first phone call I get. Linda, do you like Hummels? So really, nobody wants your stuff. I mean, you like your stuff. That's good, but
No, and that's challenging for them to let go.
Yeah.
Especially if you're moving into an assisted living
Oh,
or
my
downsizing,
goodness.
and you have all this stuff that they have, and so that's why we have to be really careful on how we have those communications, and then come up with a plan of giving it out, and whether it's selling it or donating it, or unfortunately sometimes we have hazmat crews that we have to hazmat it out if there's a lot of hoarding going on.
Sometimes they
seen
don't
it
even
all.
realize that, and that kind of thing happens. I've seen that quite a bit.
Or there's a senior, I have one recently that was full of black mold.
Ugh.
Her AC system started leaking. She prayed about it and the leak stopped. And so she thought it was great. And then it came back. Well, come to find out it was winter time and she had stopped using her AC. So it stopped leaking. From that time, she really didn't do anything. So now the ceiling is caved in and there's black mold throughout the entire home. And so that's a lot what we do too, is sit down and like, okay, how are we gonna
make
how
this
are we
even
gonna make this
saleable?
happen? And we came together, we're able to sell that home. We put it on the market, matter of fact, and it got multiple offers, 38,000 over asking for a home that we thought might be a teardown.
Yeah.
But it was getting in there and doing the research. I had pest control, I had mold remediation, I had GCs come in. We wanted to make sure, was it a teardown? Was it not a teardown? The house is still full of stuff. So we're having a estate sale coming up in a couple of weeks where they're going to have to go in and wipe every piece and collectible down, sanitize it, move it out to another location, and then have an estate sale for that.
I got to hook you up with my daughter. So my daughter, the hairdresser, hair, eyelashes, the whole deal. So during COVID, she started going to some of her seniors' houses to cut their hair because they were afraid, and it was outside or in their yard or whatever. And she goes, oh, I go to this guy's house, Harry's house, Mom, and he lives in a mobile home, and there's a gaping hole in his floor with a piece of plywood over it, and he's in a wheelchair. And she's like, like, what? So I call my friend, Officer Joel Quattlebaum, and I said, can you do a welfare check for me on this guy? And usually he gets back to me like in 6 hours or something. It was like 3 days later and he called me, don't worry, Linda, I was over there. We saw Harry. We're getting him a brand new floor and we're getting him a wheelchair lift in and out, all on $1,000.
Exactly.
So there are ways we can help people and there's ways we can find out things. So I want anybody out there that's thinking, oh, my place is too much of a mess, or I know there's no one to help me. There are people to help you. There are funds to help you. There are grants and money out there that we know people that can find that. We just had the Hearts and Hope concert.
I was there, yes.
Dig this one. So I get this email this morning from Sherry Gruden, who ran the thing, and she said this text just before when I was coming to the show. And she says that this morning she was at the BLS Chomp and Chat.
Yes.
And they asked how much money had been raised, and it was $28,718. Her goal was $30,000.
And it only took $2,000 to put the event on.
2 people came over, gave her some money, and then somebody else says, what do you need for $30,000? And she told them what it was, and they were like, you got it. Yes.
People love that.
Yes. And how many people that's going to help?
And that fund well, I love Better Living for Seniors, one of my favorites, but that goes into a need fund. And so
whatever it could be,
if it's an AC or a refrigerator, I mean, that goes directly back into the community.
During COVID, it was for food.
Yep.
They kept a lot of restaurants open in St. Pete.
Yep.
Because they had money to pay the restaurants to take food and to deliver to people.
That's a good, we were talking earlier about Disability Achievement Center. There's another great organization that'll put ramps in and grab bars. And because really, ideally, we want to keep people at home as safe as possible in their home.
Yeah, nobody says I want to grow up and go to the nursing home.
No, they do not. Matter of fact, my grandmother told me never to put her in the nursing home.
Yeah, well, they think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well,
but I don't want to go there either. I'm sorry.
No, and she ended up in assisted living because we had to do that. There was dementia again and Alzheimer's. But no, there's so many different programs, and I only know enough to be dangerous. So I really just try to ask the right questions, listen to what they're going through,
and go to your network,
and then supplying them with the right connection. I don't want them kicking a can down the road or using Google Roulette or getting scammed, which we see all the time. We want to work with people we trust, know, and like, and being part of Better Living for Seniors, for example. Man, that makes us look like a rock star. When I have so many people behind me that can come in and do PT, home health, estate planning. I mean, you name it. We're able to supply that with a person that we know that's not going to scam them. And we work together and we see them all the time. And it's good
it's all good for everybody. You know what? There's plenty of business in Pinellas County for all of us.
More than we can handle.
Yeah. So I always say to people, the best bet is just work together.
Find the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, and there's as a real estate agent, we're always very competitive. And yet there's some that I work with and we get together and we brainstorm on situations and clients and homes, and it's seamless. And that's because we just want to help.
You have a good heart.
Yeah. We're out there to be a giver and to be support and helping people no matter what. We know it'll all come back.
It always does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I tell my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, just do the right thing. Sometimes I said, if you do something crappy, I go, one day something crappy is going to come back to you. Maybe not on the day you expect it, but it will. I say, if you do something really good, one day it's going to come back to you, not on the day you expect it. And they're like, yeah, okay. But now as they're getting older and they pay attention to me and they start saying, hey, like maybe grandma's got something there,
And you have to give first in order to receive. I mean, that's what I really put into my kids is, I want this, I want that. Well, you know what? You have to give first. Fill that bucket up first. Give that energy, that gratitude, that volunteering.
And how good does it feel when you give?
Amazing.
So I've been in Kiwanis like 18 years. And I tell my grandchildren that service work is not an option. It's a responsibility. As you live in the town of Seminole, you should know the people in Seminole. You should do some part for your community. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah. But every time I bring them to something, the pancake breakfast, the trail cleanup, the whatever, they're like, yay, grandma, the family fun fishing. Yeah, let's do more, So it's important.
And people need that too, for happiness, for health, more of these events that bring the best out. The stress levels right now are so high.
Yeah.
Unhappiness, because they don't have enough events or community like this.
When we do the family fun fishing, so kids come, we have a trailer, we got the rods, we got the bait, we got the whole deal. They just come with their parents, they sign up or whatever. And then we give a prize for biggest fish, most fish, it's right over at Taylor Park. When you see that kid come around the corner, I got a fish, that never fished before, and then 20 minutes later you hear, my brother got a fish. It's like, and just your community, when I was first asked to join Kiwanis, it was funny because women weren't allowed for a long time. And they had only been allowed for like 5 years before that, whatever. And I went to this breakfast at this place, Cher's Restaurant, I remember. And it was mostly men. I think it was like 20 men, maybe 2 women. But you know what? I felt like I was having breakfast with my dad.
Yeah.
Men of integrity, men of the community that cared, that cared about me. And they have cared about me.
I'm a Rotarian.
Yeah.
I've been a Rotarian 37 years.
It's so good.
And you've been to most of our clubs, Linda.
Yes. And ditto, because we all should be sharing that, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. So
Agreed.
what do you think caregivers need to hear, Michael?
Well, I think we've touched on it a couple of times. One is you're not alone, that it truly does take a village to really get through it. And there's someone out there that's going through exactly what you're going through. And I think just getting caregivers, especially, we know the toll on caregivers caring for a family member and the respite and how they put their needs aside and how it really wears on them. And I always try to ask them, well, what happens if something happens to you? You know, you have got to take care of yourself,
Right.
no matter what, in order to care for your spouse or your loved one. And I think that's what the support groups are so much important, because we got to take care of the caregivers.
Yeah.
We know that I think 85% of the caregivers pass before the client.
It's crazy.
And it was an outrageous number. And so I think that's really
And
most
who
important.
wants to live your final years that way?
Nobody. You want to be the spouse, not
Right.
the parent, not the caregiver.
Right. But I'll tell you, somebody said to me in the support group this morning, she said to me, so my husband's in community now. So does that means I'm not a caregiver anymore? I'm like, no way. She's like, well, so-and-so said to me that now I can be the wife. Well, yes, now you can be more the wife again, because you have a team helping care of your husband. I said, but you're still a caregiver 24/7. Nobody knows your husband better than you do. Nobody loves your husband more than you do.
Right.
So it's an ongoing process, but when you can get support. So let's say somebody's listening to this show right now and is thinking maybe we need to downsize, or maybe we have to think about one of us going into a community and one of us staying.
Yeah.
How do you think what should they first do? Should they think about contacting you and chatting? Should they just start talking to their family about it?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think family is really important. But no, reaching out to either myself or someone in a similar position that can just talk and give options and ask those questions, to start diving and doing discovery and figuring out what is possible, what is not possible, what is feasible, what are the different steps, because even if they're getting ready to move into an assisted or downsize, no matter what, with the way the market is, sometimes it could take 30, 60, 90 days, right? Especially for these condos nowadays. So yes, I think downsizes are great, but right now we also have to get you help now in the home and bridge that gap. So I think I always say I'm more of a concierge. So I just try to listen, educate.
Could you also help someone, like if they needed a reverse mortgage?
Of course, well, I would be able to talk to them more about it. I just know enough to be dangerous, right? So I can tell them the ins and outs and then get them with a couple reverse mortgage people to talk about it. Reverses are not for everyone.
No, they're not. But they are for some people.
They are. I've had some great
Well, they have to
success
take
with
a
it.
course now.
A HUD course.
Before they're actually even able to get a reverse mortgage,
so-
right? She think it's fabulous.
FHA took over reverses, I think about 5-6 years ago. So they're now partially federally secured. And so being that there's more watch and oversight,
Which is
and yes,
good.
you need to go to a HUD counselor. We also need to make sure the family members understand how the end transaction goes.
Yeah.
And so there's ins and outs, but I've had clients that have taken reverses to put her husband in an assisted living while she stayed at home. I've seen reverses just to fix up the home and get them care before they sell.
Yeah, or get a chairlift or elevator or whatever they need.
Yeah, so it can definitely come in. And there's also other avenues, whether that's HELOC, cash out refi. I mean,
the stuff
there's so much more than
Yeah.
So a reverse would be one aspect that we would mention, but again, it would have to fit the family. So I think calling anyone, especially a concierge or someone knows enough about the community to send them in the right direction, those are the first conversations to have. If I'm going to be involved, I'm going to get your family involved no matter what.
Yeah, then they should be.
Yeah, I don't. Everything comes with the family. We sit down, we go through everything. We want to make sure they're on board too, and then we want to make sure it's the client's decision, not mine, not the family's.
But we're all on the same page.
It needs to be their decision because, as you know,
they're home.
Well, mom's not going to do anything she doesn't want to do. So we need. It has to be her decision.
I'm not either.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't either. No.
I tell my kids if I ever get dementia, you're in big trouble. I know every trick in the book.
Very rarely do we see a situation where there's not many options. I mean, there are some cases where we walk in, like you said, where there's a hole in the floor, it's unsafe. We've done well.
But we still have options. We could at least help them with that.
Yes, we can.
We
And
can at
there's
least help
places to
them
go
with that.
temporarily too while we fix it or do respite. So there's so many options.
And sometimes, you know what? it's just that family maybe didn't even know, like his kids, that Harry had a hole in his floor. They don't live here. They live in Ohio or whatever. When they call up Harry, Harry's like, I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's, he's not going to tell them that stuff.
No, everything's fine. They always say everything's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'll probably say the same thing to my kids. Don't worry about it. I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You raise a lot of questions, Mike. Like, what happens if someone doesn't have a family?
So it depends on where they are in their life and their situation.
Yeah, I run into quite a few people that are in these situations.
Yeah. And everybody else is gone.
Yeah, everybody else is gone, and they don't know what to do.
So those are great clients to talk to, but I mean, with that, it might be a guardian or an ad litem representative or someone to be on their side to help them make those decisions. As a real estate agent, I mean, I'm fiduciary. I'm a single agent to that client, so that's all I'm focusing is on them, never anything else. But it's hard if they're by themselves. Yeah, I think that's why we have the Silver Santa program, right? So we can help those isolated seniors that are alone.
Yeah, so we have a lot of programs just trying to combat that.
Yeah, but it's the same. They have the decisions. Now, as long as they're mentally capable of making their decisions, then we have several options. It's only when they are deemed not capable of making those decisions or they're too far along on the progression of dementia, Alzheimer's, or Parkinson's, that's when it gets a little tricky and we have to start really relying on guardians or ad litem or a special needs lawyer.
So what do you do when someone comes to you like that?
Well, I've had many that they don't come to me. Someone makes a phone call to me first, and I go do an interview. But mental health itself, not just Alzheimer's, dementia, not just the organic, but just mental health in general, anxiety, depression. It affects how a person thinks about these big issues, and again, they put it in the back of their mind, just thinking that we'll get to it sometime. But I'm thinking of 2 or 3 cases right now where, and I'm talking about a pretty sizable estate, and no succession plan. And here's what happens sometimes is I'll just call them squatters. They'll take somebody in that's going to be a helper or a caregiver.
I've seen that.
And the next thing you know, everything's gone.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about earlier about the elder abuse hotline, and Florida is set up to help seniors, and we're the most senior friendly state there is in the country. And it's because we have programs like 211 and elder abuse hotline and those things. But when they're alone, I think it just comes down to sitting down and having a conversation. A lot of times they get paralyzed by over-analysis, right? It's that they're mentally not there. They're by themselves. They may be going through depression. With that, it's just really having empathy and sitting down, taking your time. Maybe instead of an hour visit, it's a half a day visit, right? And getting them resources, caregiver support groups, whatever I can do to help, I think is the most important thing.
Thank you, my friends. But now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Superpatch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing the Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Superpatch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Superpatch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
So thanks for tuning in today, everybody. The Connecting Caregiver Conference site is now live. So you can go to connectingcaregiversconference.com and register free of charge. We will have 18 speakers over 3 days. I know it's tough to sit there for 3 days. I can barely do it. But as long as you register, within 30 days, you'll receive all the videos of the conference to watch as often as you want or to share with anybody you want. We have a lot of great speakers. Just go to the conference and you'll see it. And I'm sure there'll be something there for everybody. So thanks so much for being with us today. Tune in next week for another great show. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.